So you want to get better at getting things done. You want to move through your to-do list with ease. You want to stop feeling like you are pushing yourself to do things and start almost wanting to get things done. In this video, I want to talk about one thing that will stop that from becoming a reality, one thing that will just make it a lot harder for you to want to get things done, to feel more motivated. And that is the invisible rules that you hold. Invisible rules about what you should do, invisible rules about how you should do things, and invisible rules about what is actually possible. So here's an example of someone who noticed their invisible rules and questioned them. And in doing so, it made their life much easier and it made it much easier to get things done. So there's this guy, Kareem, from Subway Ticks, and he was living a life where he felt like his days were on repeat. He was just doing the same thing day in, day out because of his job. He had untreated ADHD, and soon enough, he ended up on medication for depression because he was so unhappy with the way his life was going. He ended up taking medication for his ADHD because he was like, this is the only way I'm going to be able to get through my days as they are. Until one day he said to himself, why can't I live a life that is more aligned with my illness? His illness being his ADHD. Who said that it's not possible for me to have ADHD and thrive in my career? And he slowly built Subway Takes, which is where he interviews people on the subway and asks them for their hot takes. He gets to do something different every single day. It's novel, it's exciting, it caters to his illness, ADHD. As a result, his life feels good. He wants to do his work. Things are exciting and novel. And if you want to get good at getting things done in a way that feels more natural and easy, not as in pushing yourself and disciplining and hurting it out, but just getting things done in a way that feels natural and more easy, you need to get good at questioning your invisible rules. So asking, well, why isn't that possible? Who said I couldn't do it this way? Basically looking at what you're good at, what you love doing, what comes easily to you. And when I say comes easily to you, I don't mean that it's easy. I just mean that for you, it's easy to motivate yourself to do it in that way. But also looking at the things that you hate and the things that you're bad at and the things that are really difficult for you to get yourself to do. And then going, okay, well, why can't I work with my nature? Why can't I do things in a way that's more naturally aligned with who I am as a person? Why can't I prioritize what comes easily for me and what I am good at? And one of the best ways to start living in this way is to notice your invisible rules and actually question them. So for example, I recently stumbled across a TikTok of this guy and he was dancing and he had weights, and his caption on this video was, someone asked me what my workout routine is. How do I tell them that I just dance around my room, listening to ABBA and holding weights? And immediately I thought, wait, I do that. But that isn't real exercise. That is the fake exercise that I do on the side of my real exercise. It's just like upkeep movement. It's not real exercise. I caught myself in the middle of an invisible rule that exercise had to be suffering, that exercise couldn't be completely joyful and fun and enjoyable. So I Googled what actually counts as exercise and found that vigorous exercise is anything that makes you breathe hard, where you can only say a few words without pausing. Sure enough, next time I did my little dance around the room, I was like, wait a minute, I'm breathing hard. I can only say a few words without pausing. And that invisible rule about what exercise should look like, the conventional idea of what it's supposed to be, was actually stopping me from living a more aligned life. The person who actually introduced me to this mindset is a guy called Josh Spector. He's a business consultant. And for him, he was asking himself questions like, well, why can't I do an email newsletter that's one paragraph? Sure, I've never seen anyone else do it. It's definitely not conventional wisdom, but it's what feels easy and right and aligned for me. And I think it would have value. Why can't I do that? Why can't my podcast be other people asking me questions instead of me asking other people questions? To find more natural motivation to get things done in your life so that you're not living this life where you are constantly pushing to do things, constantly having to amp yourself up in order to get stuff done. You really need to look around and go, well, what are my invisible rules about how this is supposed to be done? What are my invisible rules about the conventional wisdom here? What am I assuming is supposed to happen here? Or what am I assuming I'm supposed to do? And a lot of the time, this isn't about what you're doing. It's about how you do what you do. So here's one mini move that you can take to take this podcast episode, make it actually actionable for you. That way you're not listening, just feeling inspired and then doing nothing with this information. Firstly, pinpoint any area in your life where you're like, this feels just harder than it should be. Or I just don't seem to be succeeding in this area. And then ask yourself, well, what am I assuming about how I'm supposed to succeed in this area? Or how I'm supposed to carry myself in this arena of my life? What are my invisible rules that exist about what needs to be done firstly, how that should be done, and what's possible? Even think to yourself, what is the conventional wisdom about how I'm supposed to conduct myself when it comes to this area of my life? that I somehow feel I am obligated to follow. Then create a list of all of your strengths, all of the things that come really easily to you. Once again, when I say comes easily to you, doesn't mean that it's easy. It just means that you're better at it, or it just feels more natural to you. Something can be difficult and arduous and still it can feel good for you to do, therefore it comes easily to you. So you've got two lists, all of your assumptions, all of your invisible rules, all of your strengths and things that come easily to you and things that feel good for you. And then start to get creative and go, why can't I try it in a way that embodies all of my natural strengths, all the things that I actually enjoy? How might I approach this in a way that just feels more me? There is no doubt in my mind that you can be successful and you can do really well at something by pushing yourself and by getting yourself to do stuff all the time and by really hustling it out. And it's way more sustainable to find out a way of living that is more naturally aligned with you and your personality and your strengths. At the end of every podcast episode, I do Recs of the Week, so that if you liked the topic of today's podcast, you can dive into the rabbit hole a little bit. The Rec of the Week this week is actually a little mini clip from Josh Spector's podcast because he inspired this podcast episode. And he's a good example of someone who is running his business in a way that is just aligned with his strengths, what feels natural and good to him, rather than just blindly following conventional wisdom. I appreciate you so much. I'll see you in the next episode.